You know, there was a time, a long, long time ago, when these two teams were the darlings of the AFL. A time before the iPhone, before YouTube, before Facebook, a time before we were all sick of Geelong. But that was in an age long forgotten. Much that once was is lost, for few now live who remember it. You know, I've been to over 500 Essendon games over the years. It's actually probably close to 550 if I could be bothered counting them. And the most memorable game of all, apart from the grand finals, because they're in a separate category, is probably the game against North Melbourne in 2001, where we were 69 points down and came back and won the game, which was the biggest ever comeback for a team that was behind by that margin. No one's ever come from that far behind before, and it just seems so long ago. It's nearly a quarter of a century ago. The reason I bring that game up in particular is because ever since that game, both clubs really haven't been much good. That game was actually a turning point for Essendon, for those that remember. I think we were about 14 wins, 2 losses, something like that going into that game. And we just got over the line. And after that game, we were never really the same. We were sort of a 50-50 team for the remainder of that 2001 season. And then from 2002 onwards, we really haven't been much good. So these Essendon North Melbourne games, that one in particular, sort of holds some historical significance.
Well. How the turntables.
And what both teams wouldn't do to go back to the past and recreate the rivalry that it was about 25 years ago. There were some great games back then. Not just that one. I remember the one 2 years earlier in 1999 where Wayne Carey kicked 10 goals and Matthew Lloyd kicked 7 in a game that Essendon won, a high-scoring game. So many great games back in that era, the Sheedy versus Pagan era, but it's very, very different now. Both clubs have had a very, very lean couple of decades, and we're going to get into the preview of this week's game, which is a big danger game for Essendon. I think we're all sort of thinking the worst about this game, and we're going to get into what we need to do and everything about it in this video. If you like this content, please hit the like and the subscribe buttons. It helps the YouTube algorithm when you do so. It doesn't cost any money and it only takes 1 second. About 75% of people are not subscribed who are watching this, so I'd really appreciate it if you could do so. So Essendon versus North Melbourne, the battle of the northwest of Melbourne, a local derby of sorts. We have won the last 11 matches between Essendon and North Melbourne, so we have a fantastic recent record against the Kangaroos, but 2 of the last 3 matches have been decided by less than 10 points. So they are getting closer and closer. And it is kind of like their grand final, let's face it. They do like beating Essendon. And this is probably the one opponent that they would choose to beat if they could lock in a win before the season started. So last week, North Melbourne came pretty close to beating Port Adelaide. They gave up a 5-goal head start, but at a venue they've never won it, they came home and nearly won the game. And if Nick Larkey had been able to kick straight, if he had his kicking boots on, and he is normally the most accurate kick in the AFL, they would have won the game. They ended up losing by just the 8 points. So this is going to be a pretty tough game. They've copped it a little bit. People have been wondering why haven't they improved? And you sort of get that bit of a feeling that at some point, they're just going to put together a match. And they did a couple of weeks ago against Melbourne where they won pretty comfortably against the Demons. You just feel as though at some point they're going to put together a match where it's all going to come together for them. We just hope that it's not this week. Now, we're a better team than them. We should win this game, but we really have to be on our guard. They're going to be fired up, and they're going to treat this as a match that they can win. So what do we have to be wary of? Well, we still have a flaw with the way that we are defending. We like to be a team that is aggressive offensively. We have more of the ball than any other team, but we are slow to react when we turn the ball over. Last week, for example, Collingwood had 17 shots off turnover. We only had 9. Time and time again, the opposition players have space because we're too slow to man up after we commit a turnover. And we saw this against Collingwood. We saw this against other teams this year where the effort seems to be there, but the results just don't seem to be there. And there is a reason why we concede so many points off turnover, which is the one area of the game I think we need to clean up. Essendon like to commit numbers to the ball, and that's why the contested possession numbers look pretty even, and we actually come out pretty good in that stat. But if you look outside the contest, other teams just have a better system, so other teams can get it to the outside and punish us because we have so many pushing up into the contest. And that's one of the reasons why it looks like we can't defend, even though we're trying. I call it the difference between working smart versus working hard. We seem to be working hard, but we need to work smarter. The effort's there, but we just make it difficult for ourselves. A good example is, even though we have a lot of uncontested possession ourselves, we're the second worst team in the competition for conceding uncontested possessions to the opposition. We're the third worst team in the competition for conceding uncontested marks to the opposition, and we're the fourth worst team at conceding shots off turnover to the opposition. So this is something we need to get better at, and really it needs to start this week against the Kangaroos. Fortunately, North Melbourne are one of the worst teams in the competition at being able to stop opposition teams once they have the ball. So looking at some of the key stats between the two teams, Essendon ranks second in the competition for disposals. The Kangaroos ranked fourth. So if anything tells you that disposals are kind of irrelevant, that's the stat. It's really disposal differential, contested possession differential, uncontested possession differential with the opposition. That's the key. Inside 50s, Essendon is 15th in the competition with 49 per game. The Kangaroos are 16th in the competition with 46 per game. Clearances, we rank 9th with 39 per game. The Kangaroos are a little bit better at 6th with 40 per game. Contested possessions, we rank 11th with 130. North Melbourne are much the same. Uncontested possessions, it's an area we do tend to dominate. Second with 239 per game. Effective disposals, we are third with 280 per game. And North Melbourne, would you believe, are second with 277 per game. One area that we've struggled in all year is marks inside 50. We are 14th in the competition with 10 per game, pretty much the same as North Melbourne, who have 10.5 per game. Our opponents average 5 more marks inside 50 than that when they play us. They average 15 per game to our 10. And for North Melbourne, it's about the same. So it's an area that for once, our opposition probably shouldn't have an advantage over us. We're the third worst team for 1%ers. North Melbourne are actually the worst. However, there is one area that we are very good at, and we're the best team in the AFL at opponent stoppage clearances. Our opponents at stoppages only have 22 clearances a game, which is the best defensive effort in the AFL. So there is some good stuff to look at from our point of view. We're also pretty good on contested possession differential. Like I said earlier, we are 11th with 130 contested possessions per game, but we are +8 on our opponents per match. The Kangaroos pretty much break even with their opponents in this particular stat. One area we might be able to get a bit of an advantage on the Kangaroos is that they turn it over more than any other team in the competition, 5 times more per game than their opponents. For us, it's only 2 more. So punishing them off turnover is going to be something we need to do. So for the North Melbourne team, who's got to come into the team? Who's going to go out? Well, they're going to have a suspension. Paul Curtis, who's actually been a really good player for them, one of their up-and-coming forwards down there, is out with, or he's going to be out with a suspension. I'm not sure if they're challenging it, but that is going to be one that they're going to miss. Darcy Tucker didn't get a stat for them, so I would suggest Clarko might be dropping him. Who might come in? Maybe someone like Will Phillips, Zach Fisher perhaps, 2 possible ins. It's all hypothetical at this stage, but that's something like that I would probably anticipate. As for the Bombers side, I suspect Tsatas will come in probably for Gresham. That would be my prediction. Gresham's had a pretty flat couple of weeks. It does also depend on Harrison Jones, who got injured on the weekend, although Brad Scott did say he'll probably be right. I was of the opinion Harrison Jones probably should have made way and deserves, a little bit of a run in the twos just to get some form. But Tsatas didn't play in the VFL game on the weekend, so given that there's a 4-day break between the VFL game and the Thursday night AFL game, you can only assume that he was given the rest from that game because they're considering bringing him in for the match on Thursday. I don't think there'll be any other changes to the team. If he does bring Jones out, who hasn't really been playing as a tall anyway, then Sardell Hooley could possibly come in. It'd be great to see someone like Zach Johnson be given a game. I reckon that'd be fantastic. I don't think it's going to happen this week, not off a 4-day break anyway, even though he probably deserves it after a really good game in the twos. At least if we bring Sard in, it could give us a little bit more run. But I don't think there'll be too many changes. I would suspect probably just Tsatas in for possibly either Gresham or Menzies. I suspect Gresham is probably going to be the one that makes way. That would be my prediction at this stage, but we'll see on Wednesday when the teams get announced. They do have some areas, though, which are of concern for Essendon North Melbourne. Their ruckman, Tristan Xerri, is just about the best ruckman going around at the moment, maybe only just behind Max Gawn, He's really good, and that's an area that he could possibly exploit, especially with an ageing Goldstein. Wright will definitely need to give Goldstein a bit of a chop out in the ruck at some point during this game. Wright's definitely staying in there for this game, especially with North Melbourne's undermanned backline. This is a good chance for Peter Wright to kick a few goals against one of the weaker defences in the AFL. They've really got no one obvious to play on him down there. Wardlaw's a great little player for them. I'd love to play like Wardlaw in our team. Sheasel hasn't been quite as good as what he was last year, but he's still effective for them. So they've still got some pretty good players, but we should be able to exploit their defence. We're much taller than them, and we are generally a tall side. And hopefully if Goldstein doesn't get injured and he can just stay on the park there and battle their big ruckman, then that leaves Peter Wright to really exploit their lack of height in defence. Caldwell is still probably a week away, so I don't think he's quite ready to come back in. I think most of the players that were on the cusp of returning from injury are probably going to be back the week after. What I'd really like to see this week is some consistency. I want to see McGrath play another really good game in a row. Obviously, he tends to be a bit of a whipping boy because he was a number 1 draft pick. Look, he played a great game last week. He's probably maybe second or third best player on the ground. Kept Bobby Hill to essentially nothing. I'd really like to see Zach Reid, who's played 3 consecutive good games in a row, just continue that form. And I also want to see Nick Martin rebound after a poor game last week. Martin's probably our second best player, had his worst game of the year against Collingwood, and this is a perfect opportunity for him to really put the foot down and do what good players do, which is bounce back after a poor game. So predictions for this game, what's going to happen? Well, let me just say, I actually think this is a more important game than the Anzac Day match, because the Anzac Day match might have been a big occasion, but we didn't need to beat Collingwood. It would have been fantastic if we did beat Collingwood, obviously, and one day we're going to have to, beat good sides, and we're going to have to show that we can, but we weren't really expected to beat Collingwood, and we put up a reasonable effort. This game against North Melbourne, it really shapes as a sliding doors moment. If we win, we go 4-3, we've got our head above water, we're still going okay, we're still in contention for the finals, even though no one really thinks we're going to make it, and the season is still going on track and, chugging along okay. If we lose, well, not only do we go 3-4, but it's a kind of a catastrophic loss if it's to North Melbourne as well. We'll be the subject of much criticism. The fact that it's a Thursday game means we're going to have to deal with it right until, the next game, which will be, 9-10 days away, whatever it is. I mean, it's the worst time to have a bad loss if it's early in the week, all right? So, a loss, this is a genuine sliding doors game, this one. There's a big, big difference between beating North Melbourne and losing to North Melbourne. I'm not just talking about the win-loss record, but the whole perception of the club. It will undo a lot of good work that we've done. And make no mistake, they're going to throw down the challenge to us, and this is going to be a tough game. 2 of the last 3 games have been decided by less than a goal. They do have some good players. They've shown at their best, as they showed when they beat Melbourne by 10 goals, and they nearly beat Port Adelaide on the weekend. They are more than capable of beating us, that's for sure. If we played our best, we should win. I think we're a better side than them. We should be able to exploit them off the turnover. We do play better football under the dome. We're winless in our 3 games at the MCG this year. And I think we can tough this one out and get a good win. My prediction is Essendon by 14 points. So let me know what you guys think. Are you going to be going to the game? Are you going to be watching it on television? Is there anything I might have missed? What do you think is going to be the result of this game? Do you think we're going to win? Do you think we're going to lose? Do you think it's going to be a big upset? I don't know. This is going to be a nerve-wracking game. I just have a feeling. There's just something about this game that makes me feel uneasy. I don't know if I'm the only one feeling it. Let me know. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed the preview of the match. Please like and subscribe to this channel. As I've said before, it doesn't cost anything and it only takes 1 second to do so. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.
The Premiership flag.